Good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Davis, and on behalf of the Department of Music, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this third and final session of our Finding a Voice festival here at UCI this weekend. And this festival is a collaboration between the Women in Global Music Network that I co-lead with Dr. Yvonne Liao of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and Finding a Voice, directed by Roisin Ma on my right. And this is an annual festival that takes place in Ireland, and it's celebrating and pioneering music by women composers through the ages and around the world in celebration of International Women's Day. And throughout this festival, we've been keen to foreground a range of voices. Voices in performance, voices in scholarship, pedagogy, public advocacy, and engagement. And it's very much in that spirit that this session this morning is curated. And we're thinking broadly around three themes: curation, performance, and collaboration. And each of our panelists will speak to these themes, drawing on their insights and experience over the years of thinking about these themes in relation to women in music. And we're keen also for this to be open, fluid, and interactive. So we warmly welcome input from the floor at any point through this conversation, actually. If you have reactions, thoughts, reflections you would like to share, please feel free to chime in. So on my far right, we have Yonit Kozowska. Next to Yonit, we have Aisling Kenny, and as I mentioned, the director of Finding a Voice, Roisin Ma. And I'm going to start with an open question, and I'm going to pass the virtual mic to Roisin. And that is a question that revolves around the nature of curation. And it would be wonderful if you could say a few words about how you envisage curation in your work for Finding a Voice. What does it mean to curate? And how does that serve as a lens through which to connect with your performers and the wider public? Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm going to pick out two threads from that rich sharing, and then I'm going to continue to pass the virtual mic. So Aisling, heads up, you're next. So the idea of curation as a form of a historical record, as an archive, a living archive. As you said, it changes over time. It's not fixed, have porous boundaries. But also the idea of curation as shaping an experience. And I wonder if you could speak to those themes, Aisling, just thinking about performance in this context, right? The idea of curating, shaping that experience, and creating a multi-sensory, immersive experience, both for performers, for directors, curators, and audience members. Yeah, thanks so much. Maybe we can continue with this constellation of themes. So Yonit, thinking about your work as a director, thinking about your work as a performer, as a pedagogue, and what curation means to you. And I was struck by what you said, Aisling, the idea of being an entrepreneur. And I think that's something that we can celebrate. And we can think about how music connects us, as you said, not only to each other, to the music that we perform, but also to the larger industry and what it means to be an entrepreneur within music. And I find that's a powerful way of framing the discourse. So if you could speak to any of those themes, that would be wonderful.
Sure.
That's great, thank you. I'm seeing a thread here, hearing a thread. Roisin mentioned the visual dimension in her opening remarks. And I'm wondering actually if we can tease that out a little further. So thinking about the visual dimension of a program, what the program looks like on the page. And as you mentioned, the idea of shaping this journey through the repertoire that's performed. But just your sense of, well, from a number of angles actually, how the music looks on the page for you, and then thinking about the program as a visual artifact. It's not only a sonic experience, it's not only something that moves us emotionally, intellectually, but we can also be thinking about what it looks like. And I just wondered if that's something we could run with, both at the level of the festival curation, but also individual programs. And I'll pass back to Roisin or Aisling for that. Yeah, this is fascinating. I'm going to pull together a few threads. So I want to come back to what you said about speaking. And this afternoon, we have our Spring Honours concert. And I thought this could be an opportunity to reflect on the question of how we speak in the context of a concert, but also maybe thinking about program notes in relation to speaking, whether we have spoken word as a way of complementing the program note, or whether we don't have program notes and it's all curated verbally during the recital. And I wonder, actually, I'm going to pass this back to you first, and then I'll pass it on to Yonit. But what would be your advice in a pedagogical context when you're working with students and there's this question of, should I write program notes? Should I commission somebody to write program notes? Should I not have program notes? Should I speak? What are your general thoughts on those questions? I taught a graduate seminar here at UCI last year, Public Musicology, and in one of those seminars we were looking at different ways of engaging audiences, whether it's through a pre-concert lecture, whether it's through having spoken word throughout a concert. And we were discussing some of these issues in terms of how the spoken word can intersect with the written word. And the word musicology has come up maybe once, a few times. And I want to take this as an opportunity to think about those intersections between performance and musicology, and the idea of a pre-concert talk or spoken word throughout a concert as a form of public musicology. And I wonder what your reactions might be to that. And I know that you will combine musicological work with your performance portfolio. And I wonder to what extent your musicological brain is working during a performance or in the preparation for performance in terms of curating the experience and performance as public musicology. So we've been speaking about shaping an immersive experience for the audience, but I was struck by what you said, having the conversation afterwards. And I'm going to play devil's advocate. And is there a feeling here that, yes, we want to shape this experience for the audience, but we also want to leave them room to imagine this music on their own terms? So that balance between saying something meaningful, but also retreating, withdrawing, not saying too much, and not imposing a particular agenda onto the performance. And I wonder how you navigate those boundaries in your work. And I wonder if we can bring in the idea of themed concerts, themes for festivals. They're prompts, they're invitations to interpret, to imagine what this music might sound like, what it might have sounded like at the time of its composition. So you have that sense of an overarching framework within which the audience can find their own pathway through the music, through the styles, through the genres represented within the program. And I just wondered if you could share a few thoughts about what you think of themed programs, themed festivals, and how you come up with the themes, and particularly in relation to finding a voice and the programs that you've been curating revolving around women in music. And on that note, actually, of issuing a call for participants, what's the relationship between the director having a vision for a theme, for a festival, and then the kinds of conversations with performers, collaborators, pedagogues, and then how those themes can come to fruition through connections, through conversations, so that back and forth between participants and people who are involved, and how something can start in one place and then maybe it can go on its own journey in a way, right? Once you have this theme and once you allow it to become more expansive, to develop through conversations. And I wonder if you maybe just have one or two experiences of that in your own work, of having a theme and then approaching somebody and maybe they're responding, oh, we could take it in this direction, or no, let's do something completely different. This has been a really rich and inspiring conversation, and I think, as has been clear from the topics we've discussed, much has been achieved, but there's still much more that we can all be doing to pioneer women's voices and voices of composers of all genders. And I feel that we've reached a poignant moment in our journey together today, and that's Aisling's point about finding inner peace and being true to oneself And I want to draw this conversation to a close by taking a moment to reflect and to center ourselves and to think about the kinds of voices that we want to have in our personal and professional lives, and to think about how we listen, how we connect, whose voices, how do we engage with one another, and to embrace silence. And also to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has made this festival possible. And I want to begin with heartfelt gratitude to my co-organizer, Roisin Ma. Much of this collaboration has evolved through exchanging emails, interspersed with Zoom calls, emergency WhatsApp calls. And it's been wonderful to work together and to see our vision coming to fruition. And I want to extend heartfelt thanks also to our performers, Aisling and Yonit. It's been wonderful to have you here with us at UCI, and we look forward to many further collaborations. And also renewed thanks to our sponsors, the Claire Trevor Society and Illuminations, the Chancellor's Arts and Culture Initiative, to all my colleagues in the music department and across the Claire Trevor School of the Arts, to the production team, and also to the wonderful work of UCI Media. And last but not least, to our wonderful audience. Thanks for your contributions and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.